Would you look at that? We're official now. The 6, ESPN 102.5, The Game 106.3, and The Game Nashville app. I'm Elijah Campbell, and she's Michelle Knezovic, who you heard in the Open, in our brand new Open, to signify that we are a real radio show with a nicely produced Open. This is fancy, Michelle. This feels legit now. I didn't have to pull anything from the folder.
So Chase, our suit, had me record those last week. And originally I thought it was just, seeing how my voice would sound. And that happened to me twice today on, I think, the Donate when we had our golf tournament, one of those promos. And that's the first time I heard it. I love it.
Yeah, you're the legal ID yesterday.
I'm the legal ID.
That's fantastic. But this is, as you just heard,
the
6. Brand new and improved and a more official than ever. A lot of good stuff to get into tonight. Preds have a big press conference in a little less than 48 hours. John Hines and David Poile will be speaking to the media for the first time since the post-game pressers, I guess, from the loss to the Colorado Avalanche. Some interesting stuff from Mike Vrabel on SiriusXM, Jared and Caroline on Stillman & Company. With Caroline Fenton did a really good job of going over that, and that makes me want to pose a question, Michelle, about Mike Vrabel to you. I'm curious to hear your thoughts and maybe some listeners' thoughts as well, because we're going to be taking your texts and calls. 615-737-1025. Phone line, text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So go ahead, fire away. But we'll go ahead and start with the Nashville Predators. Michelle, Poile, and Hines are speaking, which means they back. They will return, which in the NHL, it is coach firing season, GM firing season, but the Preds are running it back with them. But there's two different parts about this, and that is when you go, number one, also we'll start there. Moving forward, it's still going to be David Poile and John Hines' team. That's established. But number two, Michelle, where do you think Preds fans are leaning in terms of the direction of this franchise right now? Where do you think that they are heading, and where do you think they are actually heading? Because they're going to have to answer for a lot of future questions. I feel like the majority of this press conference will be them answering questions about the team's future. And, of course, everyone's got their preconceived notions of how this season ended compared to where they were expected to start. So, Michelle, after laying all that out, where do you think, or what do you think the results are going to be from this press conference in terms of how they address the future of the franchise?
Well, if I put my fan cap on, I remember doing the show with Robbie and Rexroad, after the Predators got swept in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then the Avalanche just kicked their feet up and just relax until the next round. But I remember just scrolling through Twitter and looking at different hashtags, typing in Hines and Poile, because usually that way you can get kind of a gauge, and then through our text line of what are the fans thinking, right? And the initial reaction was fire Poile, fire Hines, hire Barry Trotz because he just got fired.
He's available.
Exactly. But Predators fans, they are staying. Hines and Poile will speak to the media tomorrow, like Elijah said. I just think the fans want to know what they're going to do moving forward. Obviously, everybody talked about at the beginning of this season, the competitive rebuild. I think we used that word to the ground, right? We used that word to death. Competitive rebuild, and then it turned into retool. So you're not completely, bottoming out and just saying, you know what, we're going to suck for a year so then we can get, a high draft pick and then go from there. You had the Ellis trade, the Victor Arvidsson, and then you got Cody Glass, Philip Myers, and then your team was kind of just like there this season, right? You had some great wins, then you had some questionable losses. You had players have historic seasons, and then at the end of the season, you just fall flat and Colorado really just rolls over you. So if I'm a fan, right, all the excitement, you think this team, maybe it could be a series, maybe it can go to 7 games or something like that. And then you're just really disappointed, honestly. And I think what the fans need to hear from John Hines and Poile is, what is their plan to make it farther in the playoffs? Because John Hines, as a coach of the Predators, he hasn't had
You count the Coyote series. Are we going to count the Coyote series in the bubble? Because it technically was like a play-in of the playoff, a little weird thing there. So if you,
So it was kind of postseason.
yes, I guess we can say, even if it doesn't count like as a Stanley Cup playoff game, it is postseason. It is it's win or go home, and they lost 3-1 in that series, 4-2 against the Hurricanes, and then got swept obviously this year. So that's 3 wins in 3 series. You can't be averaging a win per series and feel great about it, and that's the thing with where the franchise is at, because a lot of people see, or a lot of Preds fans, I should specify, see this team right now as a team that's just good enough to get in, but can't get any further into the playoffs. And hockey, as we know, is one of those sports that just getting into the playoffs matters as much as anything, because anything can happen. We've seen a lot of crazy stuff, and this year you knew that you just did not belong on the ice. All it took was your goalie to go down, and you did not belong on the ice with the Colorado Avalanche. So one thing I'm expecting to hear, Michelle, is not just a lot of futures questions, but it's going to be, okay, part of competitive rebuild is retooling, or competitive retooling, because they had to, it's funny you mentioned that, because they retooled their own slogan. But retooling the team, like, how do you get to where you're at right now to where you're not just winning a game or 2 against the Colorado Avalanche if you have to play them in the playoffs, but how are you beating them? Like, how are you going to be able to take those next steps without blowing it up? Because I don't like some Preds fans say they want a total rebuild, and trust me, when they're winning 20 games a year, no one's going to want to be in that building.
No one's going to want to go to the games.
It'd be bad business. So
they're not going to be able to sell tickets.
Exactly. So what the Preds have right now in front of them is a team that's good enough to get in the playoffs, but not good enough to advance. How are they going to be able to manage the amount of salary cap space they're going to have to retool, to use their word, this roster?
And it's not just one player that they need. Mm-hmm. Right? I think they need a couple different forwards. They need a couple different options for scoring, because first off, there's still a big question mark in front of Philip Forsberg's name. And to be honest, I'm shocked. We talked about the comparison, obviously, both the Nashville sports teams, right? You've got the A.J. Brown decision to make, and we all know how that turned out. He's in Philadelphia right now. And Philip Forsberg, and if you're a fan, you want to get something for him.
If he's not coming back. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. If he's coming back, obviously you want to sign him, because you really, if you lose him, then you might as well go into full rebuild mode.
Yeah. Unless you can take that money and sign like Johnny Gaudreau or somebody who has proven to be able to replicate the kind of production you're missing. Gaudreau had 115 points this year, and Forsberg had a career season. But like, if you're going to lose him, there needs to be a contingency plan in place to where you feel pretty darn good about being able to replace that kind of production in the free agency market, where you're going to be able to not just replace it, but to replace it right now. And that's the hard part, like, to me, Michelle, is that if you're balancing what this team is right now and how they can go forward without either sacrificing pieces, it's going to be about the first domino that falls, and that's Philip Forsberg. But another thing, too, that's going to be reflected in this is the production of young players. Because we mentioned, like, what's one of the things that they need to do? Get extra scoring, which means you need a lot more from Luke Cunningham.
Ellie Tolvanen to step up.
Mm-hmm. You need to get something from Cody Glass. At some point, he's going to have to be able to play more than 8 games and get you more than 1 assist in a Preds uniform. You're going to have to get some things out of that. You have to player develop, and that's where John Hines comes in. That's where I really want to hear from him, is how are you going to be able to develop this talent to be able to make it to where you don't need Roman Josi to do what Cale Makar essentially did to you and scored 10 points in 4 games and single-handedly keep you in it when your goalie goes down. Philip Forsberg scoring only 1 goal in the series and it not coming until Game 4 really hurt this team's not just chances of winning the series, but even being competitive in the series. Like, how are you going to be able to retool within your own team the talents of your own young players who have yet to develop the way you probably want to see them do it?
Ellie Tolvanen, for sure. I would say he probably, looking at the team, like, heading into the season, we were talking like he is going to have to step up big time, because we didn't know how Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson were going to perform based off their seasons last year. We see Duchene have basically a 360 in his performance this year. Even Ryan Johansson, one of his best seasons as an NHL player. You need Ellie Tolvanen to step up. And even Tanner Jeannot, he had a great season, but once it came to the postseason, he kind of disappeared. And for a while, he was one of their main scorers.
Oh, he was on a tear. I mean, you could rely on him to get you a goal most nights.
Point every time.
And for good reason. And I think with him, too, I think he hit a little bit of a wall, but then it also goes to, the player development thing. Because he was shooting a really high percentage. The law of averages will eventually even some things out. So now that things have kind of evened out with him, how quick can you be able to get that next level of production out of him? That's, to me, where the whole John Hynes press conference that I want to see answered for, basically. What I want to hear from Hynes is, how are these players going to be able to develop? Because that's going to be, for him, the most important part of being able to make this next step. It'll be on David Poile to be able to retool the roster coming in to next season. But, Michelle, Matt Duchene, we're talking about John Hynes. You mentioned Matt Duchene having a complete turnaround, a career year. Had a fantastic year, 40-plus goal scorer, and broke a Preds record. And a lot of that came from what we already know of one of John Hynes' strengths, and that is getting to know his players. So when weighing pros and cons of this team moving forward, let's weigh out some pros, and we'll do that on the other side as you're listening to The Six right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, 106.3, and the Game Nashville app.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Super Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Proud to announce that they have won the Top Gun Award for the best Pella sales organization in the U.S. They have the best culture, best customer satisfaction, and best growth in the business. To celebrate, Pella is offering their amazingly affordable products at 0% financing with no payments for 12 months. Do you need new doors or windows? I suggest you shop with Nashville's Pella experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
The deals at Electronic Express are heating up. Prepare for Memorial Day with brands like Charbroil, Yeti, Samsung, LG, Vornado, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. Outdoor living, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com with free express delivery. Summer savings at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, what's going on? Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, is it true that according to the American Dental Association, roughly 80% of people in the U.S. have some form of gum disease?
That's right, but our non-surgical periodontal therapy is painless and effective in keeping your mouth healthy. And the mouth is the window to the health of the rest of the body.
I know you have some different things that you offer. What else can you tell us?
Well, first, who doesn't want whiter teeth? Our new Zoom LED whitening system is less sensitive, and you get more than 5 shades of whitening. And we just upgraded both our lasers to kill bacteria during your cleaning.
What about taking care of cold sores some people may have, which can become painful? Can lasers help with that too?
Yes, the gentle laser setting will kill the virus in your cold sores all naturally while reducing the healing time by half. And our special soft tissue wand uses warm, light laser therapy to give instant relief to severe TMJ pain. Our approach to holistic dentistry is unique.
Give Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine a call today at 615-373-4488 or visit kellyerice.com. You'll certainly be glad you did.
Don't miss Nashville SC versus CF Montreal on May 18th at 7:30 p.m. Come on into Geodis Park and get closer, bolder, and golder at Nashville SC's. Single match tickets are on sale now at nashvillesc.com/singletix.
Mid-State Sports summer registration is going on now. Adults can register as an individual or bring their whole team for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, flag football, kickball, and basketball. For more info, visit midstatesports.com. It's no debate. Play Mid-State.
Wednesday night. Hello and welcome to Penalty Box Radio here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. It's the end of an era as Penalty Box Radio signs off.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning in.
And all the shenanigans that we have gotten into.
Join Justin Bradford and Glenn Blackwell plus special guests as they look back on 10 years of hockey and fun. Coverage begins at 7
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
It seems like you guys are in a really good place now. And were there tough conversations along the way for you as a player? Is that sometimes hard to grasp or accept?
We had a really good one at the start of the year, and they were always really positive and very it was never confrontational, never awkward, never any of that. It was just trying to figure out what we needed from each other. And I think for me coming in, it was kind of a wild ride right off the bat. We had a coaching change mid-season my first year. COVID hits, go to the bubble. Last year's a shortened season. I'm hurt for 7.5 weeks. There's a lot of stuff that went on, and I think it just took a while to kind of figure, probably for him to figure out, the best way to, I think, to coach me as an individual. And I mean, it was several guys. I think he was just learning us as individuals, and we were learning him as a coach. And I think it definitely clicked this year, and it was great all year. I mean, we have an awesome, I've always had a great relationship, but I think this year it was like, I think we just, trusted each other a lot more, and just weren't kind of wondering where each other stood this year. So it was good that way.
That is Matt Duchene talking about Coach John Hines, who will be back next season at the helm for the Nashville Predators. And well documented that Matt Duchene had a career year this year, breaking a Predators franchise record for goals in a season. And honestly, going from one of the biggest question marks on the team to one of their better players in a year's time. So, Michelle, that leads me to this. As you're listening to The Six here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, there are some pros here with John Hines, and that is getting a lot out of the stars. Because I'd say this season you got more production out of your star players than at any point in John Hines' tenure as the coach of the Nashville Predators. How encouraging should that be for the Predators moving forward? And does that give you confidence that maybe it can finally trickle down to some of the players that you need to be able to get over that hump and advance in the playoffs?
I mean, Elijah, I think it's definitely promising, especially the turnaround that these players had, right? We talk about specifically Matt Duchene because I would argue that's the most drastic change from last year to this year. And if John Hines can do that with these rookies, right? Matt Duchene, he's been in the league. Ryan Johansson, they've been in the league. But if he can do it with these rookies and just them having that playoff experience this year, and I know it was only 4 games and you really want them to experience, a 7-game competitive series, because just getting that experience under your belt helps in any sport because you've been there, you've done that, you know what it feels like, you don't have those jitters. But I think if you can get Eli Tolvanen, like the players, I think, Yakov Trenin at the end of the year, we saw him with great production.
And had a good playoff series.
If you can get Eli Tolvanen, Tanner Jeannot up there as well, Cody Glass, we've seen, sparks of that. He's kind of been back and forth between Nashville and Milwaukee. If you can get all of those guys, plus you're able to keep Forsberg, Matt Duchene stays on the same pack, Ryan Johansson does, UC Saros, obviously. Roman Josi continues to be, the leader of your team. But I also think that you need to get some more defensemen. Mm-hmm. You need to beef up on that side.
Very much so.
Because the Predators just looked small.
Yeah.
And kind of just got rolled over by the Avalanche.
Yeah, and you like to see some of those players, I guess, develop a little better. Like the thing with Dante Fabra, like he's an interesting character to me right now. How much better can he actually get? Because you needed Fabro and Lazan to have good series. You needed more from. I know Alexander Carrier was kind of a revelation last season, having such a good year, kind of out of nowhere. It wasn't expected, but now that you had that good season, it's expected for you to be able to develop even further. How much better can he get? Because if the ceiling is limited on those guys, then it's going to be hard to be able to justify keeping them around if the peak of what your defensive core outside of Roman Josi and Matthias Ekholm kind of look like that. Like you just needed those guys to be a lot better. So when you're weighing out a lot of things, especially when it comes to John Hines in the future moving forward, it's okay. Well, there's some pros. The pros are he got a lot out of those stars, and it was evident that those guys had their best years this season. Because here's the thing, Michelle, too, that I've asked myself ever since Game 4 ended. It's how do you have 2 40-goal scorers for the first time in franchise history, a goalie that is a Vezina finalist, and Roman Josi, who is I would say the favorite to win the Norris Trophy, should win it. Whether or not they actually win it when they deserve to.
It's even in the Hart conversation for a bit.
Exactly.
This season.
Yeah, like you had that kind of year from Roman Josi. How does that all happen in the same season, and the end result is getting swept by the Avalanche? With the obvious, Saros wasn't in net, and that helps a lot, sure. But none of those games being remotely close is definitely a sign of concern that maybe there's something missing here too. And finding that is the biggest challenge to me for the Predators this offseason. And when you're evaluating John Hines moving forward and David Poile moving forward, the biggest you're kind of weighing pros and cons. And for me, Hines getting to the stars like that, like you heard Matt Duchene say in that clip, like it took a while for them to figure each other out. But now that they figured each other out, there's been improvement on that end. But the cons so far are the younger players hit that wall. Michelle, are there any more that you could think of, I guess, in terms of cons moving forward, things that might be a cause for concern? Because to me, the young players not developing would be my biggest fear if I'm a Preds fan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think also, too, when you look at it, what's the time limit for John Hines, right? Like, like what level do you want these rookies or these young players to be at in a year, right? At least Matt Duchene and, Ryan Johansson, it's not like they were young guys, like that start of that development. You know what I mean? Once they kind of like break that ice. Like Dante Fabro has been kind of a question mark, I guess you could say. Haven't really seen him develop a whole lot.
And he came in with a lot of promise to him, too.
So when you're talking about, developing these young players, how much time do you give John Hines to do it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big year. I feel like this is a really crucial year because of how much you got from those star players. Now it's like you have to build on it because those star players, too, aren't getting any younger as well. I know Forsberg's going to be getting into his prime, or at least what should be the prime of his career, too. The Preds still have a very young roster, but a lot of those pieces are progressing in their career, too. Like, you essentially wasted a year of elite Roman Josi. You're going to need elite Roman Josi to make playoff runs. You're going to need elite Philip Forsberg to make these kind of playoff runs because that's what you're going to end up paying them to do.
Well, and if you don't sign Philip Forsberg, how much do you think Roman Josi is going to want to be on the team? Is he going to want to be on a team that's potentially rebuilding?
I think he would just because he's Roman Josi, but man, like he does this next year. Yeah, like he walks, you don't replace Philip Forsberg's production, and the team regresses next year, even with Roman Josi putting up another alien season like he kind of did this year. Then you waste another year, and then at whatever kind of window you might have is gone. Like this is it'll be a very crucial year, which makes this offseason an insanely crucial offseason. So when we talk about one thing things we need to hear from Poile and Hines tomorrow, a lot of it is how are you going to be able to address that or tackle it? Thursday, not tomorrow. Yes.
I actually tweeted, shout out Teresa Walker, who
she's a real one.
She DM'd me. She's like, because I'm thinking today is Wednesday. She DM'd me. She's like, Michelle, it's Thursday, and I'm like, oh wait, today's only Tuesday. That's
a weird phenomenon because that's happened to me several times today too, where I have thought it's Wednesday. Like I would look at like the program grid here, in the studio, and
we've had a couple of mishaps with that before.
I don't know how that continues to happen. It's always a Tuesday, Wednesday thing, but I have just been ridiculously bad at that.
It's okay. It's only usually just like Monday and Friday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are just in the middle.
They're just the fillers, man. Yeah, it's just the filler spot. But speaking of messing up, the Titans rookies messed up and made Mike Vrabel mad. This will be a fun conversation because it almost makes me take a trip down memory lane to my athletic playing days. And it's something I think a lot of people can relate to. So the Titans rookies got in trouble. We'll tell you what they did on the other side as you're listening to The Six right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, 106.3 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Matt Duchene, and this is Smashville.
Drummond down the left side with Duchene. Duchene scores! Matt Duchene with the overtime winner.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
The versatile Kubota B-Series is a do-it-all tractor, part of our under 100 horsepower tractor lineup rated #1 for reliability. You can run powerful attachments that can be easily switched out. The Kubota B-Series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Hey, Nashville, what's the best part of hockey? That's rhetorical. We all know the answer. It's the 3-on-3 overtime, the speed, the skill, the tic-tac-toe passing. It is electric. Well, now there is a new, totally 3-on-3 ice hockey league called 3 Ice, coming to the Music City on August 6th. They're playing at Bridgestone Arena, and tickets are available now at 3ice.com. 6 teams touring across 9 cities, playing a bracket-style tournament at each stop. It's overtime all the time. Hair on fire hockey. Log on to 3ice.com for tickets now.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
When you want to rock. Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to? We are Nashville's rock station. 1029 The Buzz.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Darren McFarland. And a mulligan that we all look for in golf. Lord knows our game could use it. Willie Donick.
Outworked and outperformed a lot of other really good players.
Chase McCabe.
I want some sort of trade protection.
Darren, Donick, and Chase have you covered weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
You hear that? That heavy metal guitar riff is the sound of Fury. Angel of Death by Slayer specifically, but that is what Fury sounds like. And apparently, before Mike Vrabel went on Wilcots today, there was some fury that he had to lay down on some Titans rookies for, I don't know, housekeeping things, wouldn't you say, Michelle?
Yeah, listen, my mom would have done the same thing.
I mean, and it sounds intense.
You got to keep your house clean.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and if you've played sports before, especially like in high school, when you finally have, like a nice locker room, and coaches are really particular about that, but Mike Vrabel had this hit on SiriusXM with Weiss and Wilcott, and that's kind of how they opened up this entire conversation. I'll go ahead and just and let Mike explain it real quick.
So, Mike, we waited a couple minutes. You were talking to your players. What do you got going on right now?
Well, the rookies are in here, and they were in the weight room, and they left some towels in the hydro room yesterday afternoon. So I had to remind them and give them a little spanking about not leaving shit on the floor, Charlie, in the training room, because the trainers aren't responsible to pick up their stuff. But just explain to them that that's not why the trainers are here. They're here to help you and take care of you, but they're not here to pick up after you. So just gave them a little friendly reminder about that, and then we'll be out into meetings at 8 o'clock.
You should have hired me. I'd be good at that job, Mike. That's one thing I could have handled for you.
I think I do a pretty good job at it, too. I don't mind it.
Now, that almost sounds like, imagine being an NFL rookie, and you were the one that left that towel behind or did something like that, and you just sparked the fury of Mike Vrabel. And it's like, Mike Vrabel's a seemingly intimidating character. For a guy that's, played in the NFL for as long as he has, was a grizzled vet for a long time. But that made me think, Michelle, what's one coach, college or NFL, or not, college or pro sports in general, that you just would absolutely not want to be on the receiving end of a furious tongue lashing?
Listen, two come to mind, and Vrabel is right up there with Dan Campbell.
Really?
Both
Okay,
of those
yeah,
two.
yeah. Dan Campbell definitely is really intense, but it's almost like, to me, like almost like a positive intensity. But I could definitely tell if you cross him,
it's like crazy. I was like, because he's like on coffee. Like, did you see that?
He's
clip?
on coffee, like it is a drug. He is on the coffee.
Well, okay, it'll make sense when I say this, but I don't know if you saw the clip from training camp last year. And he had this press conference where essentially he said, "Oh yeah, I start my day with 2 extra large black Starbucks coffees."
Ooh, boy.
And I'm like shaking just listening to that. And I drink a lot of coffee.
Same, yes.
But I feel
it's
like
necessary.
Him and Vrabel are 2 guys I would not want to mess with ever.
Yeah. They don't call him Man Campbell for nothing. That dude is juiced at all times.
So excited for Hard Knocks in season
solely
with the Detroit Lions.
For Man Campbell.
Or is it? The training camp one. Sorry, not in season.
But I'm dying just to see how that dynamic is. I want more Man Campbell in my life, but I wouldn't want to be on the opposing end.
What about you, Elijah?
See, I've been thinking about this, right? I got a couple of answers, and a lot of it goes to I have seen some I remember covering an MTSU basketball practice where Kermit Davis would I absolutely rip some guys apart, and he almost gets poetic sometimes with the insults he can throw out too. And obviously a lot of it I can't repeat on air. But that man had a wrath as well, and I
really
had some, exactly, and that I had some friends who worked for him, and I've heard some good Kermit Davis stories, but I think to me it goes back to Frank Martin is definitely up there. That dude, I don't know if it's the New York in him or that scowl that he has on his face, but that man, when he blows up on the sideline, it's intense. It's Bob Knight level. Because Bob Knight would be obviously a clear one to go to for this topic. But, man, I would not want to tick off Frank Martin. In a basketball practice, I don't want to be either make a turnover or leave towels in the hydro room and have Frank Martin put me in my place, because that's an intimidating man. I've been in a press conference with that guy before, and it's intimidating. There is a tenseness to that man every time.
Well, and with basketball, you get a little bit more from those coaches just because it's obviously a smaller setting. Even an NBA game, right? You can actually see the coaches' faces and things like that, whereas an NFL game, it's a little bit harder. They've got their headsets on and all of that. But honestly, Bill Belichick's up there for me.
Really?
He just looks like he would just say something with no emotion, and I would just kind of quiver.
I think it's the look that he'd give you, or so
the body language,
or giving you a really short answer where you've ticked him off. He doesn't have to
okay,
yell to be intimidating. That
it's with the words.
Yeah, it's with the words. It's with the look. It's like I said, the body language, sometimes lack thereof, could be pretty intimidating.
Maybe if you ask
on
him his
front.
New Year resolution. Do you remember that?
Oh, I loved that. I loved that. I thought that was fantastic. I want more of that. I want more stupid press conference questions. A lot of people ripped the reporter for asking that. No, I encourage it. I want more stupid press conference questions because that fuels content.
Hey, she became national news.
She did. Yeah. It was well done on her part. She's a genius. It was fantastic. I honestly, I want more of that because do you imagine if someone asked Mike Vrabel what his New Year's resolutions would be, especially after a loss?
No, yeah. I mean,
Takes a lot of courage
you
that I
also
don't have.
get
Don't want to possess that.
they're so thrown off by it that you get a
I would hope
real
so.
raw answer. Unlike a lot of times, in press conferences, coaches know what they're going to say. But also, Elijah, I'm going to throw a woman out there who I just saw pop up on my Twitter, Kim Mulkey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Oh, she definitely has a wrath. I especially wouldn't want to be an official
No.
in a game that she is coaching and make a wrong call or just,
When she lost
miss
the
something.
SEC tournament here.
She did.
And she didn't get teed up and thrown out. I was shocked.
She has a hell of a wrath. Yeah, that's also, I don't know what she did or what deal she made, I guess, with the devil to not get kicked out of that game because she absolutely lost it on that poor official. I mean, I just absolutely went bonkers. So I would definitely put her in there. And, Pat Summitt had a wrath too. There's some, Candace Parker would tell some really good Pat Summitt stories. My favorite thing about Pat Summitt would be, old players talking about, how terrified they were the first time that they were in the crosshairs of a Pat Summitt rant. Those are some good stories there that go along with her.
I love when they tell them too, because it's you would kind of picture yourself in that moment. I can imagine how just scared you think of the rookies, you think of the freshmen, and you're just oh my God, this person is my idol, and I am terrified right now.
Yeah. Oh man, I that I could definitely see those being mentally challenging. And one thing I did want to get to as well with the Mike Vrabel thing, obviously it gets funny. We can laugh at this because that's a funny story. He gets to, just rail on rookies, give them a welcome to the NFL moment by just absolutely ripping them for not leaving the rooms the way they found them. But I think that also goes to Mike Vrabel's coaching style too. That's a perfect microcosm as to who Mike Vrabel is. There's an intensity all the time that even if it's rookies in minicamp, he coaches hard. He coaches really hard.
Well, I think at least my first impression was he's setting a standard. And he's setting a standard that no. It's not just on the field. You got to have I'm going to say it, culture of a Tennessee Titan.
Yes, the dollar in the journals and swear jar.
But in the locker room. And to be honest, I respect what he said. He said, you know what? That's not the trainer's jobs. They're not picking up your laundry. That is your responsibility. He's teaching them how to be men.
Yeah, I dig that. I can dig that.
I do too. And I think, yeah, of course, he ripped him and now you don't do it again. I had a professor say to me in college one time, and this line hit deep. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm born ready.
A mistake twice is a decision. Right?
Okay.
So you think about it. Okay, he set the standard of, and obviously this is something small, but in their heads, they are never leaving those towels.
Mm-hmm. Or if they do, it's intentional. It is not a mistake anymore. That is an act of intention.
Yeah, I think, he's telling them, hey, rookies, this is what the NFL is about. You've dreamed of it your whole life, but it's hard work. It's intense. And he's teaching them how to be men, life lessons. You can't just walk all over the place and throw your crap everywhere and people are just going to pick it up after you. I mean, we've all been around college athletics. I've worked in college athletics. That's what they do. The managers pick up their crap, do their laundry, and all this stuff. No, these aren't just students, volunteering to be a manager, to get experience, work experience, and things like that. No, these are paid trainers at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
They're professionals in their career, right? At the highest level, you are a trainer for the NFL, right? And you're a player for the NFL. They're not here to pick up your dirty laundry or anything. So, I respect it. I don't think it's him airing out the dirty laundry saying there's a problem with the rookies or anything. I think it's
intended.
just
Yeah,
no pun intended. I think it's just him, showing that he's setting a standard for them.
It is, and even if it's something small, like that's like one of my favorite John Wooden stories that Bill Walton used to always love to tell was the first practice of every season was always him telling them how to tie their shoes. Like they would go over how to put your shoes on, tie your shoes, and get ready for practice. And it's like it's almost sounds like really corny because obviously we can all put our shoes on. If you are playing basketball, especially at the collegiate level, you have put shoes on before and you have tied those shoes. But there is let's hope. But that there is a sense of this is how we're going to do things around here, that no detail is too small or too unimportant to go over. And it kind of feels like a very similar thing with Mike Vrabel holding all players accountable to even make life easier for people that don't have the I guess, what's the word? The as highly coveted job as like the players, or not as high on the totem pole. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he also preaches it in other ways. I mean, he had the comment about wanting guys to be there for OTAs and wanting his players to want to be there when they don't have to, right? Taking the initiative of showing leadership and wanting to get better, especially after the heartbreaking end to the season that they just had. So, yeah, it's a way of him showing this is how we do things, you know, trying to get everybody on the same page of nobody's more important than the other. He wants to see everybody at these non-mandatory events. Sorry, I could not think of that word for a second. Non-mandatory practices. And I think he definitely doesn't like that some people are not there. I definitely will say that.
I think the New England Patriots in him, the Patriot way in him definitely is rubbed the wrong way. And I can see how. Like he comes from that school of thought where even if it's not mandatory, it's mandatory. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I can't tell you it's mandatory, but it's
you're
mandatory.
Expected to be there. Yeah, kind of thing. And it's wanting to get everybody on the same page and kind of become a more egalitarian kind of work environment too. And as we've seen in a lot of pro sports, could be a winning formula. So Mike Vrabel, never not coaching. Moral of the story.
He's so funny.
Funny dude.
And you know that was so sugar-coated.
Oh my God! Yeah, I had to bleep it out. Yeah,
He goes, I had to give him a spanking.
Give him a little spanking, yeah, not to leave their stuff on the floor. Oh man, Mike Vrabel is a content machine. He generates a lot of content just by never not coaching. But one more segment here on the 6th. Michelle, it's conference final season in the NBA because coming up here in like 15 minutes, the conference finals, the Eastern Conference Finals will tip off between the Celtics and Heat. We'll discuss that game a little bit and maybe give you some gambling advice going into it as that round tips off here on 102.5 The Game. Stay tuned. The 6 concludes in the next segment here on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Men, what if I told you that now you're able to get testosterone replacement therapy in the comfort of your own home? No more weekly trips to the doctor's office. We come to you 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Be seen by a licensed medical professional in the privacy and comfort of your own home or office. You decide. Schedule your appointment today at CoolSpringsMD4Men.com.
Summer heat is on the way. Is your air conditioner ready? Costs are rising everywhere. Groceries, gas, utilities, you name it. Is your AC old, inefficient, and costing more than it should? Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Qualified buyers have up to 72 months no interest for a new York air conditioner and 6 months no interest for repairs. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company. Schedule now at springhillac.com.
Nashville Sounds baseball season is underway, and if you haven't been to Third and Home on game day, you're missing out. Third and Home is the newest sports bar in Germantown that overlooks the Nashville Sounds ballpark. From the bar's spacious beer patio, you can literally see the whole Sounds game as if you were sitting in the seats with a ticket. No wonder it's known as Germantown's bar with a ballpark. Head to 3rd Avenue North and check it out for lunch, a night of brews, or to catch a game. Third and Home is open Tuesday through Sunday, and you can even watch batting practice on the patio. For more, visit thirdandhome.com.
Hey, is this line secure?
Franco's cybersecurity firm secured a contract, and that's all we're allowed to say.
We have a green light on hiring.
He needs web security professionals with a military background.
3 teams of 4, 24-hour rotations, but Protocol Zulu is on a need-to-know basis.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard, so you can stay organized and connected all the way to the hire. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Starting company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Final segment here on the 6th. ESPN 102.5 The Game, 106.3 in the Game Nashville app. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Michelle Knezovic. And next is Game 1. Heat versus Celtics in Miami. Eastern Conference Final. And Michelle, you got to give a shout out to Grant Williams here, okay? Like we're a sports talk radio show in Nashville. I think it'd be remiss to not talk about Vols legend Grant Williams hanging 27 in a Game 7 to beat the defending champs, hit 7 3-pointers in a Game 7, which has only been done by 2 other players, I believe, Steph Curry and, you guessed it, Marcus Morris. That is a very random grouping. 7 threes in a Game 7, only
Steph,
2 other players
yes.
have done it. Steph, the obvious answer,
obvious.
right? Marcus Morris, but yes, he did it. I saw that on ESPN Stats and Info. Can't even remember which game he did it, which is strange because if Marcus Morris hit 7 threes in a Game 7, that's something you might actually remember. But I do not, but he did do it, and Grant Williams has joined that little that pair. Yeah, they have become the trio of guys who have hit 7 3-pointers or more in a Game 7.
Listen, I think Grant Williams, and not I think, I know, Grant Williams has had a great year on the Celtics, a great role player, right? This Celtics team, I mean, they're the dark horse of this tournament. They knew they were a solid team, right? But really towards the end of the season is when they emerged. And obviously you've got Jason Tatum, becoming a superstar in front of your eyes, but you can't forget to mention role players like Grant Williams. I mean, listen, as a Kentucky fan, he definitely broke my heart a couple times, and that Tennessee-Kentucky matchup a couple times in the SEC tournament a couple years ago. I'm not going to recap it, but
painful for you.
I
yes.
picked the Celtics to cover, so Grant Williams, we can be friends now.
Yes, he completely made up for it for beating your Kentucky Wildcats in an SEC tournament.
But
very fair.
I mean, they didn't just beat the Bucks; they rolled over the Bucks. And I took my victory lap because everybody was like, "The Bucks are going back to back. They're gonna go repeat. They're gonna beat the Heat again." And I was like, "Listen, the Celtics team in Game 7 was in Boston, and the momentum. And listen, the Heat Celtics matchup that we have got starting tonight. Out of Stanley Cup playoffs, out of NBA, this matchup I am the most excited for.
It's juicy. Yeah, it's juicy for a couple of reasons too. Like, to me, you have like the clear superstar versus superstar battle. Like Jimmy Butler, like we saw him do this in the bubble to get to an NBA Finals. And with Jason Tatum, he is an emerging superstar. I think you could claim that he probably will be all NBA this season, had his best season so far, and the ceiling with him is tremendous. But then on both sides, you also have really good role players, which 2 of them are out for the Celtics. NBA Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart, will miss the game, and Al Horford, who in this kind of new role in his career has excelled. He obviously had that monster game in Game 5 in Boston in that series.
Why are they out?
Al Horford, health and safety protocols, and for Marcus Smart, it was an injury he did sustain at the end of the Game 7 against the Bucks. But those are two really key role players, and both sides here have great role players. That's how you win the playoffs. It's no coincidence that teams that have PJ Tucker have made deep playoff runs in the last 3 or 4 years. He is playing in Miami right now because he's a solid role player. The Celtics have a few of those guys. Grant Williams has been a really good role player. Robert Williams, a.k.a. Time Lord, because apparently he has a reputation for being late all the time. One of my favorite NBA nicknames right now. But is a really great defensive player, a great role player. You have that perfect scenario where you have the star players, but the game, this series is going to be won with the quote-unquote the other guys.
I love that saying, Elijah. Well, because then you go to the Heat side, right? And you've got Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, all kind of surrounding Jimmy Butler. And obviously Jimmy Butler is the head, his mindset of just a grinder. I mean, Jimmy Butler's one of my favorite basketball players.
He's tough.
I have
tough
a Bulls
dude.
Jersey, right? He's a JUCO guy, went to Marquette. I know everybody can have he's a dirty player, blah, 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 all this stuff. He gets a reputation and things like that. But I watched a documentary on him, and then I started to kind of look into Jimmy Butler. And that is a tough guy who works his butt off. There's some sayings when James Harden was going for a trade from the Rockets, right? Obviously, he landed with the Nets, and now he's with the 76ers. But Miami was kind of in the talks, and they were like, there's no way James Harden will be coming home from the bars or the strip club at 3 a.m. and Jimmy Butler will be working in the gym, right? His reputation around the league is just a hard worker. And, I mean, you could see that. He's scrappy. He wants to win. And last year, they were so close, and the team has been, right there. And they haven't had any drastic changes. If Tyler Hero can, play like he played in the bubble,
yeah,
as a rookie,
they're going to need that version of Tyler Hero because the way the Celtics are defensively, they're so good at just throwing bodies in waves at your best player. They did to Giannis. Granted, Giannis was scoring 40 points in some games, but it took him 36 shots to do it sometimes. Giannis wasn't shooting a phenomenal percentage because of the amount of bodies the Celtics can throw at you. And they have so many guys that can guard multiple positions.
When he missed some bunnies in Game 7.
He did.
Because essentially the whole Celtics team was on him.
They just walled him up. They walled up the paint and said, okay, well, if you're going to shoot shots from 5 feet out, they're going to be really tough ones. Mm-hmm. And they executed that game plan so well that I think they can do that with Jimmy Butler in terms of frustrating him and make him become a high-volume shooter to be able to get those points. The key players here, Bam Adebayo is going to have to be able to score the ball a little bit. He's so far, being known because he's an elite defender. He is an elite roll passer for a big man. That blows my mind. I don't have any beef with John Calipari. I think he's a good coach. But what he was at Kentucky is nowhere near how he's being used now. You have one of the best passing big men, not named Nikola Jokic, in the NBA, and he just wasn't used like that in college at all. He was a screener, roller, and played in a system defensively that maybe that wasn't to his strengths. But now he can handle the ball a little bit. He can pass. He isn't just a screener and roller now because the Heat are so good at developing players. They actually are really good at that. And guys like Max Strus, they're going to need him to be able to knock down threes and play defense as well. The biggest matchup to me will be, there's two of them. One, how will Jimmy Butler handle just the wave of defenders? Tatum, Brown, Horford when he's healthy, Marcus Smart, the defensive player of the year, who might not be the best defensive player on his own team, also being there. They're going to throw him there. Grant Williams, a much improved defender on this team too. If he gets past them, how is he going to handle Robert Williams in the lane, the Time Lord? There's a lot of ways that the Celtics team can frustrate Jimmy Butler. And then on the other side too, it's how are they going to be able to, keep up with the Celtics shooting? Because the Celtics shot really well in the last series. They have a lot of guys who can spray it. And if Grant Williams is hitting 7 threes, I don't think it's going to happen every game, but they are dangerous offensively just because Jason Tatum has taken that step. They have the best player in the series in Jason Tatum. How do they keep him from averaging 27 and taking over these games?
Right, and then you hope that somebody else, like a Grant Williams, doesn't have that many too, because I mean, 7 threes. I know it was a game 7 and it was in Boston, and sometimes you see that in a home game. But honestly, I think looking at these two matchups, I do think that Miami is a bit ahead of the Celtics. Obviously, tonight they have a couple key players out on the Celtics end, and I think that Miami's favored by 2. I think that Miami will cover the 2 points in Miami tonight. But also another point, Elijah, I think that Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA.
I'd say he is one of the top, 20 in the history of the NBA. Very underrated.
Underrated in these last 2 years, the way he has gotten this Heat team to where, back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, right? And they kind of just had all mismatched pieces, and he made them all fit, essentially. A couple years ago when Jimmy Butler went there, and then you get Tyler Hero, and then you draft well, you get Bam.
Great player developer. And to me, that's what makes, in the NBA, you got to be able to develop talent, and no one does it better than Eric Spoelstra. And quickly, Michelle, you said the line has now gone up to 4.5 in favor of Miami because of the Marcus Smart and Al Horford
still going to be Miami.
absences. Would you still take Miami with 4.5?
Heck yeah. I think they win by just under 10, maybe 8.
I think so, too. So we both have the Heat winning game 1 tonight. Who wins the series and how many games? This one's intriguing.
I definitely think this series is going to 7, and I think the Heat.
I think I'm leaning Celtics. Defensively, I think they have the answers, and I think they finally have put it together. This could be the year Jason Tatum finally does it. But that's coming up next. Game 1 here in a little over 3 minutes. It'll be right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, 106.3, and, of course, streaming on the Game National.